Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Draq, your resident wizard and master of the auction house for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. And today I'd like to talk about boxing. Now I know there's a lot of people in the community that have very strong opinions about it. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through and kind of see what VR has talked about when it comes to boxing. And then also I'd like to interview my friend Toastsniffer, who boxes 48 different characters on EverQuest. Now that to me is just crazy, and so I think his opinion about what boxing should be for both EverQuest and in EverQuest currently, and then Pantheon is just super interesting to me. So let's see what VR has said, and to do that, of course, we go to the library of Pantheon and we do a little searching, and let's see what we come up with.
And you want to do something or work towards a goal or some faction or some experience or whatever, well, fine. We're not going to stop you. We're not going to actively seek you out to cut you down. But multi-boxing and gold farming and things like botting are completely different. If you're using a program that's automated, third-party program to play the game or characters for you, then that's something we will step in and address.
I mean, you can see us right now. We're having, if you compare today with the last stream, we're having more problems answering your questions and talking and playing the game right and not forgetting what we're doing. And that's just going to increase the tension, how carefully you're going to have to pay attention and react, counterspell, and everything like that. So if you can multitask and multi-box and still pay attention and still do well, that, more power to you.
I'd say there is a concern. And knowing the public statements we've made up until this point, even just over the last couple of months as this topic has resurfaced, unless convinced otherwise down the road, perhaps by what we're observing during alpha, beta, I think we're going to be moving towards more of a hardline approach to prohibit that behavior, because the concern is that it poses too much of a risk to the core values of the game.
Multi-boxing, we're not going to actively stop, but it's going to be very hard to do so with our combat and the way we kind of run things. One person trying to control multiple characters like say a tank or a DPS and a boxed healer, you're not going to be as good or as efficient as a real healer being played by another player. So we're kind of going to see how it goes in testing as we open it up to alpha and beta to see if it becomes a problem, and then we'll act on it before we launch live, but we don't have a hard answer just yet.
So a little bit of mixed messaging from VR, kind of the one message of, well, we're going to allow it, but it's going to be so difficult that you might not want to do it, to Joppa, who said, well, I think we're just going to discourage it altogether and prohibit it. For me, I kind of lean towards like Joppa, and he'll probably get his way in the end. And so I kind of lean that way, that's what they're going to do. But, it kind of seems like maybe they haven't fully decided on it yet. Who knows? So next, I'm going to show you the interview I did with Toastsniffer. He plays on a private EQ server, and he boxes 48 different raid level characters and is currently working his way through raids. So that's just super fun and super exciting. So I hope you really enjoy it. Take a look. So what's the most you've ever boxed?
Yeah, 48 is my...
Is the most.
Yeah. I could go to 54, but I haven't needed that many so far. And as long as I keep beating the game as they keep releasing expansions with 48, I'm not going to go anymore.
Right.
I'm fine right there. Yeah.
But you don't bot, right? So explain to people like what the difference between like boxing, botting, and then macroing is.
Well, botting is where you write, I guess you pre-write macros, or you write predetermined destinations and actions your characters would take. And then you don't trigger them with a touch of a button. You actually just type a command in or something, and then it executes an entire string of predetermined or variably determined actions.
So that would be like
basically you can set it and walk away, and your characters will keep doing what they're supposed to be doing. which is actually against the rules on the server I play on. You can't have any kind of completely automation going. You have to puppet master is what they call it.
Right. So you would write your code and then you just activate it and then you walk away from it. You come back in an hour and it's still going doing its thing.
Yeah, kind of like they do allow some automation like forging and like skills macros that actually automate where it'll keep casting like summon bread and heal and true north and spells like that. They allow that kind of thing to get your skills up on your bots, which are completely automated. But you can't be AFK if they actually, and they do check from time to time. They'll send you a tell and you better be sitting there, otherwise they'll ban that character.
So then, if that's not what we're doing, we're not botting. So what are you doing then? How does what you do work?
What I do is it's a series of macros, and it runs through another software called E3, which is all that is shortcuts for macros. So instead of having to type out a long string of commands, back when I don't know if you used MQ2 or something a long time ago, it actually just is like they turned it into slash commands, almost like they're built into the game, like slash sit, slash stand, slash whatever, invite. It's all slash command based, and that's all E3 does is it turns macros into slash commands. So what I'm doing is I have 48 characters, and I use a server that talks to all of them at the same time, and I send them all the same slash command simultaneously. And that's how it works. That's how you can control 48 characters at once without automating them.
So you take all of your characters all logged in at the same time and you tell them all to follow whatever your lead character is, and so they all execute that at the same time and then they follow your lead character. Or you tell all of your 48 characters to like attack one mob and then it attacks that one mob. That's
Yes.
the general idea?
Yeah.
But then you can get more complicated and you can like divide that up so you can like sort out different things to do different things, right?
Oh yeah, and I could send in just the rogues or just the berserkers or just just the warrior. Like my warriors my warriors I control completely separate. So I could have them pick up ads and main tanking the raid mobs. I puppet master from a Shadow Knight. And it's really good to be on a Shadow Knight paladin. It's up to Shadow Knight's really good to puppet master from, I've found. Because you're really good with snap aggro. And you could still tank in a pinch if your warrior goes down. But generally, it's just you're adding another part to the game that's been out for so long that we like, and it's a whole nother challenge, and that's why I took it on, because it's I've played EverQuest 100 different ways, but this is the 101th way now.
It's fun and interesting to watch. I've been getting a kick out of watching it. What's the biggest raid boss you've taken down?
All right, so I've done as far as played, I've done all the Blades of Power. So I've done Corm, and then Corm's actually not that hard. I'm working through, at the time I took a break for a while. I'm working through Gates of Discord right now, and I'm on Ikken's 4, which is about the start of the back end of Gates of Discord raids. So I'm about 2 or 3 raids from the very end of Gates of Discord. And that's proven to be pretty tough, and that's why I took a break, because it was getting rough trying to push that all the time.
How long did it take you to get 42 raid level characters with raid level gear and all max level and all geared out? How long did that take you?
Well, let's see. 70 is the highest level. The first 2 groups take, a couple months each. So about 3 to 4 months getting the first 6 to 12 characters done. If you do the right 12 characters at first, you could slam the rest of them pretty quick to max level. But beyond that is gearing them and flagging them. The gearing never stops with that many characters, because you kill something and then you got to decide who it goes to. Because there's no DKP and no randoms. It's all you, so you gotta,
You are your own loot council.
it's hard determining sometimes who to give it to, because you got like 6 characters that need it. And
So
You try to be fair and pass it out because you're only as strong as your weakest character.
So
You know.
So how many? I noticed that you had a few epic weapons. How many epics have you actually completed in EverQuest?
One of every single class and race at least a few times each. Not counting P99, I've done like the Druid, the Enchanter, the Rogue, the Clerics. On Project 99 on live, I did 2 Necromancers. I've done, monks there, a shamans, and these are also all through 2.0 on PEQ. I have all my clerics with their 1.5, which is 7 of them. I have all my bards, which is 7 bards with their 1.5s. I have all their wizards, which with their 1.0s on their way to 1.5s. Some epics aren't as important as others, but wizard and clerics are very important, and bards.
So 7 cleric epics. That means you've camped 28 scales. Is that because there's 4 for each, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of camping. And the drops, are the drops like on the server that you play? Are they faster, or is it kind of like regular?
No, the drops are exactly the same. The only difference is they're running the modern speed, like the modern spawn timer. So, say on P99, the respawn time was 7 days. It's 3, because EverQuest Live went to 3-day respawn timers.
Right.
Along like Finnegal used to be 3 on P99 and Live. It's
Right.
3 days. On this, it's 12 hours. They sped all that stuff up. And they did it. Project EQ is very good to staying in era. So everything they do is really close to how everything was back during Omens of War era. They try to stick to that.
Nice.
That's their goal, is to recreate in era.
So slightly faster than P99, but the same as live,
Yeah.
basically.
But the drop rates are, yeah.
But dude, it still takes a while. We camped scales on live on the TLP servers. Dude, you're looking at days, not hours.
No, it's a long time. you spend long time. Dude, don't get started on the Vex Stall key where you have to get 10 lucid shards on every character.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. All right, so let's transition to Pantheon just for a little bit.
Yes.
Do you think that Pantheon should allow boxing?
I'm kind of partial to this. I like boxing. I do. But I don't think they should allow it to the extent like I'm doing it on this server. I think 2 or maybe 3 and no third-party software. I wouldn't mind seeing like me, let's say I had like a shaman and a bard.
Right.
And I was boxing on one computer or 2, let's say it's 2, whatever, a laptop and a computer. That'd be fine. I'd be okay with 1 or 2. Or 3 maybe. I would say, what I would say the group, because they determined the group size yet? I know they were saying either
6.
5 or 6.
It's 6
at first. They actually landed on 6 now.
Yep.
I would say up to 3. So you could have 2 friends with 3 characters each or something. But no software. I think that really takes the, it's cheap. It's cheap for people who don't have it.
Right.
It is.
Well, and I've said this before. It's kind of a form of pay to win a little bit, because if you have a powerful enough computer or you have multiple computers, you can afford to do that, right? Then you have an advantage.
Yeah. So it'd be fair. I mean, probably 2 would be fair. That would keep the pay to win down. It would give somebody a slight advantage, but not enough that's going to be game changing difference,
right?
As far as but yeah, I mean, here's my thing: is you're paying for a product. If you're willing to pay for 2 of the accounts and play it, I don't see the problem with it. And as long as you're not using it to disrupt other players, also, you're not pretending that's not you and like training a bunch of people or something to get a camp, or not being disruptive with it. I don't see why not having 2 accounts or 2 characters would be harmful for the community.
Right.
It's when it gets beyond that and you got people,
Dude, the 6 boxers with the mages, those are the EverQuest the bane of EverQuest when you go into Lower Guck and to go camp the FBSS and there's 6 mages sitting there just killing everything in sight, and you're just like, come on, man, and they're all the same name,
Yeah,
and you're just like, dude.
I mean, that's what I said. I like it, and now I mean, I've thought of it. Why don't they have a separate server that allow it? Like, so
you're getting
if
to
you
my
pay
next
for
question.
one account, yeah, okay.
So
let's go with it.
my next question is, do you think that they should have a server for boxers?
I think if you pay, like, here's what they should do. I'm not saying, like, but let's say I pay for, let's say they have, like, it was EverQuest. They have 10 different servers you could play on. Well, A through, or 1 through 10. I pay for a character. You can make a character on any of them once you pay for the game.
Right.
But let's say I pick a character on server 1, but they have server 11, which allows boxing. You should just, you could start in a character on that server, and then if you want to have multiple characters, they all have to be on server 11 or something. That would be also
Right.
a good way to make everybody happy.
Right. I think that's acceptable. As a boxer, do you think VR can stop boxing? Like if they say, whether it's just on a specific server or whether it's just in total overall, do you think they can say no boxing and enforce it? Because like EQ says no boxing, right, on their live servers, but they don't seem to enforce it. Do you think if Pantheon says,
I've never enforced it. Do I think that they can stop it? Yeah, they do pretty well on P99. They do stop the they do stop boxing really well. VPN, well, though, if they were trying to do it through IP blocking, VPNs will always get around that. So they won't be able to do it that way. It depends how much presence VR has in game. If they have voluntary GMs, like EverQuest does and P99 still does, where if you want to be a GM, you can volunteer. You can stop people. Like on P99, for example, they run tests. So you could apply for a IP exemption on Project 1999 for EverQuest. So let's say me and my wife want to play. But let's say it really wasn't my wife playing and it was really me times 2 with a laptop and they'll actually come over, and I've seen them do this before. A GM will show up randomly and unannounced and just have them do some tests, like you run in a circle, the other person run in the circle going the other way, and then jump and type, and he'll tell them to do different things, and he can judge by their response time and how the characters move if it's really 2 people or 1. And I've seen people get banned and also seen people pass.
oh,
It happened in Unrest a few months ago. I've seen a couple get tested and they passed.
nice. So on P99, you can only. So I haven't played that. I only played it by myself, so I never had this issue. So on P99, you can only have 1 account per IP, and then you have to request for more. And so
you have to have ask for an exemption.
Oh, interesting.
So then they know who's potentially boxing.
Right. So then they can be like, oh, well, here's the 2 people on the same family. They're in the same place. Let's go check it out.
Let's go see if they're really boxing or not.
Right. And
and that's what they do to keep it fair.
Nice.
Obviously, the way around that, like I said, is a VPN. I've also seen people on there skip the exemption and just do a VPN. And then they can't prove, anything because, one computer's from America, the other one's in, Bangladesh or whatever.
Right.
And, they can't prove it, but they can still have you run tests and see, jumps and moves and stuff like that. So if VR is willing to do all of that, like some of the P99 staff is, then yes, they can stop it. But are they willing to dedicate that much resources to it?
Yeah, well, they've talked about having an in-game presence of moderators and GMs and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. I really hope that they bring that back because I've been the victim of just like the automated nonsense on EQ Live where somebody reports you for something you didn't even do. You don't even get a chance to talk to anybody, and you just get banned.
Yeah, I like the old EverQuest where if someone reported you, a GM would either show up or message you.
Right.
And it was kind of nice seeing a GM, like when there was a dispute, it was nice having a GM literally show up and moderate it for you.
100%.
I know if you played back then, I'm sure you've seen
Yeah.
GMs
Mhm.
show up on scene and determine who gets to camp or who was doing something wrong.
100%.
And generally, there was nobody that would get in trouble. They would just say, "Well, you're the one in the wrong. You know, go somewhere else. It's your camp. Fight's over. I'm going home."
Right.
And that was nice having an on-site person.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Pantheon is going to be too difficult, or they're going to make it so hard that it's going to make people not want to box. How do you feel about that?
Hard is always subjective. You know, people consider a game that's really grindy hard, but grind doesn't necessarily mean hard. It just means time consuming, but people equate that to hard. So it depends what, their definition of hard is. For one person is a fun challenge, for somebody else, that might want to take up the challenge. So I get what I see what they're saying. Like some of the systems, like the acclimation system and the weather and this kind of stuff, is going to make it hard, maybe to box. The perception system, even, and like the way the dispositions of the NPCs might make it hard and stuff like that. We'll see, but I don't see anything that they can implement game wise to make it hard to run. Two characters, even without software. I don't see what would be so hard.
Well, and I've always said too is like the thing about is to play the game overall and just like to go through the game naturally you could make that almost impossible to box. But in the boxer world, right, the boxer mentality, you're looking for situations, individual situations that you can exploit, or not, maybe not exploit, but that you can use to your advantage
In the system, yeah.
Right. And so you're going to find that safe place where you don't need to do lots of button pushing, and then you can run your two boxes, and then you can just grind it, right?
Yeah,
And-
look at the funk grind experience and items.
You're not going to be looking for that place where everything heals and you got to stun things at the right time and that's not going to be the place where you're going to box. You're going to find a place where it's going to be it's going to be relatively simple. You can keep pulling mobs over and over and over again, and it's just going to be a nice easy grind. And then you're just going to grind that thing till you can't grind it anymore. And so that's going to be really hard, I think, for them to develop a game where there's no places like that in the game, where there's no spots that you can take advantage of that.
Well, no, and like I said, it's generally when you tell somebody you can't, somebody's going to try and say, "You want to bet you that I can." Somebody's going to, it's just, that's human nature, one.
Right.
And that's just, it's computers, and there's lots of smart people out there that'll figure it out.
Dude, and back in the day, I used to play a ton of StarCraft, right? And I also used to watch a ton of StarCraft, and all those Korean guys, dude, they could make every single individual StarCraft unit do exactly what they wanted it to do. And they'd have 50 to 60 little StarCraft units on their screen, and they would make them all act like individual units. I can't do that, but there are people in this world that can. And like you said, if the challenge is put before you, there's somebody out there with the mental capacity and the finger dexterity to make that happen. So, yeah. So I think that I'm with you. I think it's going to be really difficult to ban boxing if somebody has a laptop sitting right beside them, unless you get some kind of, like you say, the
monitors.
Test. Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be monitored. Your name, where did your name come from? Toastsniffer.
I don't know. I've used it since I was about 13. And something one of my brother's friends said or something one time. And ever since then, I was like, hey, that's going to be my name. So it actually came from, my brother's friend said something along those lines. And he played EverQuest, and he typed it out in chat one time, saying something, "You're a Toastsniffer." And I was like, hey, that's going to be my new nickname for all my stuff online.
All right. Well, what do you think about boxing? I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Put it in the comments below. Let me know. Also, if you'd like to follow Toastsniffer and watch his boxing adventures, watch him raid Classic EverQuest with his raid force, I'll have all that information down below. So please give me a comment. I'd love to hear your opinions. Onward and upward.